Every animal superpower explained. Immortality. Immortal jellyfish. The immortal jellyfish, Turritopsis dohrnii, is the only known animal that can biologically cheat death. When it's damaged, sick, or simply old, it doesn't die. It reverts. Every cell in its body transforms back to its youngest state through a process called transdifferentiation. A fully grown adult jellyfish essentially becomes a baby again, settling on the ocean floor as a polyp and restarting its entire life cycle from scratch. It's not healing, it's not regenerating, it's hitting the reset button on aging itself. Scientists first documented this in the 1990s when lab specimens refused to die. They'd age, start deteriorating, and then instead of decaying, they'd shrink, reabsorb their tentacles, and reattach to the bottom of the tank as a polyp. Given the right conditions, this cycle can repeat indefinitely. There is no known biological limit. The jellyfish is tiny, barely 4.5 millimeters across, and it's now found in oceans worldwide, likely spread through ballast water and cargo ships. It can still be eaten by predators or killed by disease. But old age? That's optional. Echolocation. Bats. Bats navigate in complete darkness by screaming into the void and listening to what comes back. That's echolocation. They emit ultrasonic pulses, sometimes over 200 per second, and their brains process the returning echoes to build a real-time 3D map of everything around them. The precision is staggering. Bats can detect objects as thin as a human hair. They can distinguish between different insect species mid-flight based on wing beat patterns in the echo. They can track a mosquito moving through a cloud of other insects and intercept it in total darkness at full speed. Their sonar system outperforms anything humans have engineered. Military sonar systems process signals far slower than a bat's brain, which updates its spatial map hundreds of times per second. Some species adjust the frequency and timing of their calls depending on the environment, using different settings for open sky versus dense forest. They even avoid jamming each other's signals when hunting in groups by shifting frequencies, essentially switching radio channels. A single big brown bat can eat 1,200 mosquitoes per hour using this system. Regeneration. Axolotl. The axolotl is the undisputed champion of regeneration in the animal kingdom. Cut off a limb and it grows back perfectly. Not a stump, not scar tissue, a complete, fully functional limb with bones, muscles, nerves, and blood vessels all in the right places. No other vertebrate comes close. Axolotls can regenerate their legs, tail, jaw, spinal cord, heart tissue, and even portions of their brain. When a limb is severed, cells at the wound site dedifferentiate, meaning they revert from specialized cells back to something resembling stem cells. These cells form a mass called a blastema, which then rebuilds the entire missing structure from scratch. The process takes weeks, not months, and produces zero scarring. Scientists have amputated the same limb multiple times, and it regrows perfectly every time. Their spinal cord regeneration is particularly remarkable. A severed spinal cord in a human means permanent paralysis. In an axolotl, the cord reconnects and full function returns. Researchers are intensively studying the genetic mechanisms behind this ability, hoping to unlock similar regenerative potential in human medicine. Camouflage. Mimic octopus. The mimic octopus doesn't just change color, it changes everything. Color, texture, shape, and behavior, all within milliseconds. Its skin contains thousands of specialized cells called chromatophores, each packed with pigment that can expand or contract on command. Below those sit iridophores that reflect light and leucophores that scatter it. Together, they create any color, pattern, or texture imaginable. But what makes the mimic octopus unique among octopuses is its ability to impersonate other animals. It has been documented mimicking at least 15 different species, including lionfish, flatfish, sea snakes, jellyfish, and mantis shrimp. It doesn't just change its color to match them. It reshapes its entire body and moves like them. To mimic a lionfish, it spreads its arms out like venomous spines and glides through the water. To mimic a flatfish, it flattens itself and undulates along the seafloor. To mimic a sea snake, it buries 6 arms in the sand and waves 2 in opposite directions. Each impersonation is strategically chosen to deter the specific predator threatening it at that moment. No other animal on Earth has this kind of adaptive, intelligent disguise system. Electroreception. Sharks. Sharks can detect your heartbeat from several feet away through solid water. They don't hear it. They feel the electrical field it generates. Every living creature produces tiny electrical signals when muscles contract and nerves fire. Sharks sense these signals through organs called ampullae of Lorenzini, hundreds of gel-filled pores concentrated around their snout. The sensitivity is almost incomprehensible. Sharks can detect electrical fields as weak as 1/1000th of a volt per centimeter. That's like sensing a battery connected to electrodes 1,600 kilometers apart. This is why sharks can find prey buried under sand. A flounder hiding on the ocean floor is invisible to sight and silent to hearing. But its gills pumping water create tiny electrical pulses that light up a shark's electroreceptors like a beacon. Hammerhead sharks evolved their wide heads specifically to spread their ampullae across a larger area, essentially giving them a wider electrical search beam. Great white sharks use electroreception in the final moments of an attack when they roll their eyes back for protection and go blind. They don't need to see, they can feel the electrical signature of their prey's nervous system from inches away. Magnetoreception. Sea turtles. Sea turtles are born with a biological GPS system so precise it guides them across entire oceans. A hatchling loggerhead turtle crawls into the Atlantic from a Florida beach and spends years circling the ocean in a migration loop spanning thousands of miles. Then, decades later, it returns to the exact beach where it was born to lay its own eggs. Not the same coastline, not the same region. The same stretch of sand. They accomplish this using magnetoreception, the ability to detect Earth's magnetic field. Their brains contain magnetite crystals, essentially biological compass needles, that allow them to sense both the intensity and the angle of the magnetic field at any point on Earth. Every location on the planet has a unique magnetic signature, like coordinates on a map. Turtles read this signature and navigate accordingly. Experiments confirmed this. When researchers altered the magnetic field around captive turtles using electromagnetic coils, the turtles changed direction exactly as predicted. This system works across featureless open ocean where there are no visual landmarks. A built-in navigation system that never needs charging and never loses signal. Super strength. Dung beetle. The dung beetle is the strongest animal on Earth relative to its body weight, and it's not even close. The species Onthophagus taurus can pull 1,141 times its own body weight. For a human, that would be equivalent to dragging 6 fully loaded double-decker buses. The strength comes from their biology and their motivation. Male dung beetles fight each other for access to females inside tunnels dug beneath dung piles. The stronger beetle pushes his rival out of the tunnel and wins mating rights. Evolution has been selecting for brute strength in these beetles for millions of years, and the result is an insect that makes every other strong animal look feeble by comparison. Gorillas are strong. Elephants are strong. Rhinoceros beetles can carry 850 times their weight. The dung beetle beats them all. They can dig through compacted soil, roll dung balls many times their own weight across uneven terrain, and sustain maximum effort for extended periods. They also navigate using the Milky Way, the only known insect to use the galaxy for orientation. Not bad for a beetle that lives in dung. Night vision. Tarsier. Tarsiers have the largest eyes relative to body size of any mammal on Earth, and each eye is individually larger than the animal's brain. A tarsier weighs about 130 grams. Each eye weighs roughly 3 grams and measures about 16 millimeters in diameter. For a human to have proportionally sized eyes, each one would be the size of a grapefruit. These enormous eyes exist for one reason: to capture every possible photon of light in near total darkness. Tarsiers are nocturnal hunters in the dense forests of Southeast Asia, and their eyes are packed with rod cells, the photoreceptors specialized for low-light vision. The density of rods in their retinas is among the highest, measured in any primate. The trade-off is that their eyes are fixed in their skulls. They can't move them. To compensate, tarsiers can rotate their heads 180 degrees in each direction, essentially looking directly behind themselves like an owl. They hunt live prey in darkness, snatching insects and small vertebrates with their hands using vision alone. No echolocation, no enhanced smell, pure eyesight in conditions where humans would see nothing. Bulletproof armor. Ironclad beetle. The diabolical ironclad beetle has an exoskeleton so tough that entomologists literally cannot pin it to a display board. Steel pins bend against its shell. The beetle can survive being stepped on and even run over by a car. Researchers at Purdue University and the University of California put the beetle under a compression testing machine and discovered it can withstand forces of roughly 150 newtons, about 39,000 times its own body weight, before its exoskeleton fails. The secret is in the architecture. Unlike most beetles, the ironclad has fused wing covers called elytra that it can't open to fly. Instead, these covers interlock through a series of blade-like joints that work like a jigsaw puzzle. When force is applied, the interlocking joints distribute the stress evenly and deform gradually instead of cracking catastrophically. The beetle evolved this armor because it lives under the bark of trees in the western United States, where predators try to crush it. It simply became uncrushed. No venom, no camouflage. No speed, just pure structural engineering perfected over millions of years. Suspended animation. Tardigrade. Tardigrades are microscopic animals that survive conditions that would obliterate virtually any other life form. Space vacuum. Temperatures from near absolute zero to 150 degrees Celsius. Radiation doses hundreds of times the lethal limit for humans. Pressures 6 times greater than the deepest ocean trenches. They've been shot out of guns at 900 meters per second and survived. When conditions become lethal, tardigrades enter a state called cryptobiosis. They expel nearly all water from their bodies, shrinking to a third of their size, and replace it with a glass-like sugar that locks cellular structures in place. Their metabolism drops to 0.01% of normal. They stop being alive without actually dying. In this state, called a tune, they can endure almost anything. Researchers have revived tardigrades from tons after 30 years of suspended animation. They rehydrate, resume metabolic function, and carry on as if nothing happened. In 2007, tardigrades were exposed to the vacuum and radiation of open space during a European Space Agency experiment. They survived. Some even reproduced afterward. 8 stubby legs, a simple brain, and the most extreme survival toolkit evolution has ever produced. Super speed. Peregrine falcon. The peregrine falcon is the fastest animal on Earth, and nothing else is remotely close. During a hunting dive called a stoop, peregrines reach speeds exceeding 240 miles per hour. That's faster than a Formula One car, faster than a Japanese bullet train, faster than most skydiving humans at terminal velocity. The falcon achieves this by folding its wings tight against its body and plummeting nearly vertically toward prey, becoming an aerodynamic missile. At these speeds, the air pressure against its nostrils would make breathing impossible. Peregrines have evolved bony tubercles inside their nostrils that redirect airflow and allow them to breathe during the dive. Their nictitating membranes, translucent third eyelids, protect their eyes while maintaining vision. The strike itself is devastating. A peregrine doesn't grab prey at 240 miles per hour. It strikes with a closed foot, essentially punching the target at a speed that generates enough force to instantly kill or dismember the prey on contact. Pigeons don't just die from the hit. They can be torn apart by the impact alone. The falcon circles back to catch the falling remains. Sonic weapon. Pistol shrimp. The pistol shrimp possesses the most powerful weapon relative to body size in the animal kingdom. Its oversized claw doesn't crush prey. It creates a shockwave. When the claw snaps shut, it produces a cavitation bubble, a pocket of low-pressure vapor that collapses almost instantly. The collapsing bubble generates a sound reaching 218 decibels, louder than a gunshot and louder than a rocket launch at close range. The snap also produces a flash of light called sonoluminescence, where the collapsing bubble briefly reaches temperatures estimated at 4,700 degrees Celsius, nearly as hot as the surface of the sun. All of this from an animal about 5 centimeters long. The shock wave stuns or kills small fish and crustaceans from a distance. The shrimp doesn't even need to make physical contact. It just points and fires. Colonies of pistol shrimp snapping together create so much noise they interfere with military sonar systems. Submarines have used dense shrimp beds as acoustic camouflage. If the claw is lost, the shrimp regrows it, and the smaller claw transforms into the new snapping claw, a biological weapon that reloads instantly and repairs itself. The smartest living animals explained. Chimpanzee. Chimpanzees are often considered the smartest non-human animals on Earth, and for good reason. They share about 98.8% of human DNA and display astonishing cognitive abilities in the wild and in labs. Chimps make and use tools with purpose, stripping leaves off sticks to fish termites out of mounds, cracking nuts with stones, and sharpening branches into primitive spears to hunt small mammals. They also show social intelligence. They form alliances, reconcile after conflicts, and understand rank dynamics inside their groups. In memory tests, some chimpanzees outperform humans in short-term visual recall, especially when numbers flash quickly on screens. They can also learn symbol systems and basic sign communication, demonstrating understanding of requests, object labels, and sequencing. Chimpanzees teach skills culturally too, meaning different chimp populations have different traditions for solving the same problem. That is huge. It means intelligence is not just instinct, but transmitted knowledge. They deceive rivals, plan group hunts, and adapt tactics depending on target prey. Chimp intelligence is physical, social, and strategic all at once, making them one of the clearest mirrors of early human cognition alive today. Orangutan. Orangutans are the quiet engineers of the rainforest, with problem-solving ability that rivals great apes and sometimes surprises human researchers. Native to Borneo and Sumatra, they spend most of their lives in trees, and that environment has shaped exceptional spatial reasoning. Orangutans build new sleeping nests almost every night, carefully selecting branches, weaving support layers, and even adding pillows and rain covers in some cases. They use tools in the wild, including sticks, to extract seeds from spiky fruits and to probe insect nests. Captive orangutans have solved complex puzzles involving locks, latches, and multi-step sequences with minimal demonstration. Their long juvenile development, up to 8 years with intensive maternal learning, allows young orangutans to absorb highly detailed foraging knowledge. They also show delayed gratification and future planning, saving useful tools for later tasks rather than using them immediately. In cognition studies, orangutans can infer hidden causes, track object permanence, and solve mechanical tasks through insight, not just trial and error. Their intelligence is methodical and deliberate rather than flashy. They don't rush. They think, test, and optimize. In terms of strategic thinking and technical skill, orangutans are among the most sophisticated minds in the animal kingdom. Dolphin. Dolphins, especially bottlenose dolphins, combine social intelligence, communication complexity, and self-awareness in ways few animals can match. Their brains are large relative to body size and highly folded, associated with advanced information processing. Dolphins can understand symbolic language, follow abstract commands like do something new, and mimic both other dolphins and humans. They also pass the mirror self-recognition test, showing awareness that the reflection is themselves, a rare trait shared with only a handful of species. In the wild, dolphins use tools. Some populations carry marine sponges on their snouts to protect themselves while foraging on rough seafloors. They coordinate cooperative hunts by corralling fish with bubble nets or mud plumes, then taking turns feeding. Communication is deeply individualized. Signature whistles function like names, and dolphins can recognize and respond to specific whistles years later. Their social networks are dynamic and strategic, with alliances that can persist for decades. They also engage in play for no immediate survival reason, a hallmark of cognitive richness. Dolphins are not just smart at tasks. They are smart in relationships, memory, adaptation, and innovation. Their intelligence operates across emotional and tactical domains, making them one of the most cognitively complex animals in the ocean. Orca. Orcas, or killer whales, are apex predators with cultural intelligence that may be unmatched among marine mammals. They have large, complex brains and live in tightly structured social groups led by matriarchs, where survival depends on learned knowledge passed across generations. Different orca populations have distinct dialects, hunting methods, and food preferences effectively separate cultures. Some pods specialize in fish. Others specialize in marine mammals. Their techniques are stunningly precise: wave-washing seals off ice floes, coordinated ambushes on whales, and strategic splitting of prey groups. Orcas teach these behaviors to young members through repeated demonstrations and cooperative practice. That teaching component is critical. It means intelligence is cumulative, not just instinctive. Orcas also exhibit long-term memory, social loyalty, and coordinated decision-making over long distances. Studies show post-reproductive females increase pod survival by sharing ecological memory, such as where salmon can still be found during low food years. In other words, elder knowledge keeps families alive. Orca intelligence is collective as much as individual. They think as a unit, communicate with precision, and execute multi-stage strategies with timing that looks almost military. Few animals combine social structure, cultural inheritance, and tactical hunting at this level. Elephant. Elephants have some of the most impressive emotional and social intelligence of any land animal. They possess large brains with well-developed regions linked to memory and empathy, and their behavior reflects that complexity. Elephants recognize themselves in mirrors, indicating self-awareness. They also identify individual humans by voice, scent, and clothing cues, and can distinguish between different threat levels. Their memory is legendary. For real reasons, matriarchs remember migration routes, water locations, and social histories over decades, guiding herds through drought and danger. Elephants show clear signs of grief, lingering around bones of dead relatives, touching skulls gently with trunks, and displaying altered behavior after loss. They cooperate in problem-solving tasks, coordinate movements in groups, and assist injured herd members. Communication extends far beyond vocal calls, including low-frequency infrasound that can travel several kilometers. They also use tools, such as branches to swat flies or plug water holes. In intelligence tests, elephants demonstrate delayed gratification, causal understanding, and flexibility in unfamiliar challenges. Their minds are deeply social, built around memory, care, and coordination. Elephant intelligence is not just about solving puzzles. It is about maintaining a complex society across space, time, and generations. Crow. Crows are often called feathered primates because of their astonishing problem-solving skills. Members of the corvid family, especially New Caledonian crows, manufacture and modify tools in the wild, shaping hooks from twigs or cutting leaves into precise foraging tools. They can solve multi-step puzzle boxes requiring sequence planning, not random pecking. In lab studies, crows have used one tool to get another tool, then used that second tool to retrieve food, a clear demonstration of hierarchical reasoning. They also understand water displacement in tasks similar to Aesop's fable, dropping stones into containers to raise water and access floating food. Crows recognize individual human faces and remember threats for years, even warning other crows through social learning. That means one crow's bad experience becomes group knowledge. They plan ahead, too. Some species cache food strategically and retrieve it later, while also re-hiding food if they think another crow observed the cache location. This combination of tool use, social memory, and tactical deception is exceptional. Crow intelligence is fast, flexible, and practical. They adapt in urban and wild environments by learning rules, exploiting opportunities, and teaching each other what works. Raven. Ravens are among the smartest birds alive, with cognitive abilities that rival great apes in some tasks. They excel at planning, social manipulation, and causal reasoning. Ravens cache food in many locations and remember not only where they hid it, but who was watching. If a raven suspects another bird saw the cache, it may return later and move the food to a new location, showing perspective taking and strategic deception. In controlled experiments, ravens have demonstrated future planning by choosing and saving tools to solve tasks hours later. They also solve complex mechanical puzzles involving strings, latches, and sequential actions. Socially, ravens maintain long-term relationships and appear to understand rank and alliances. Young ravens engage in exploratory play and object experimentation, behavior linked to cognitive development in many intelligent species. Their vocal repertoire is also sophisticated, with context-specific sounds and mimicry capabilities. Ravens thrive in harsh environments, partly because they can innovate under pressure and exploit new food sources quickly. Intelligence for ravens is not a single trait. It is a package: memory, strategy, social awareness, and adaptability. That package has made them one of the most evolutionarily successful and behaviorally advanced birds on the planet. African gray parrot. African gray parrots are widely regarded as the most cognitively advanced birds in language-like communication. Their intelligence became famous through Irene Pepperberg's work with Alex, an African gray who demonstrated understanding of colors, shapes, materials, numbers, and basic concepts like same versus different. Alex was not just mimicking sounds. He used words contextually to identify objects, request items, and answer questions correctly. African grays have remarkable vocal learning ability, but their real power is conceptual mapping, linking sounds to meaning. They can solve object permanence tasks, remember categories, and perform simple arithmetic like counting in some studies. In social settings, they learn by observation and adapt quickly to human routines and cues. Their brains are small in absolute size, but densely packed with neurons in forebrain regions important for cognition. That neural efficiency likely contributes to their high performance in problem solving. In the wild, African greys live in socially complex flocks, where communication and memory are essential for survival. Their intelligence combines symbolic learning, social awareness, and flexible adaptation. For a bird, that is extraordinary. They show that advanced cognition is not limited to mammals with large brains. Octopus. Octopuses are the most intelligent invertebrates known, and their cognitive style is radically different from vertebrate intelligence. They have around 500 million neurons, with a large fraction distributed in their arms, allowing semi-independent control and sensing. Each arm can explore and manipulate objects with local decision-making, while the central brain coordinates higher-level behavior. Octopuses solve mazes, open jars, navigate complex enclosures, and escape tanks through tiny gaps. They show curiosity and object play, interacting with unfamiliar items even when no food is involved. In experiments, octopuses learn quickly through trial and error and can retain solutions over time. They also use tools in some contexts, like carrying coconut shells for future shelter. Camouflage control alone requires extraordinary neural processing. They can change color, pattern, and skin texture almost instantly based on visual input. Octopus intelligence is highly embodied, meaning cognition is integrated into movement, touch, and real-time interaction with the environment. They are mostly solitary, so their intelligence evolved more around exploration and problem solving than social politics. Even so, their flexibility and innovation are exceptional. Octopuses prove that complex minds can evolve along very different biological pathways. Pig. Pigs are far more intelligent than most people assume, often outperforming dogs in certain learning and memory tasks. They quickly learn routes, object location associations, and symbol response systems. In touchscreen experiments, pigs have used joysticks and screens to move cursors toward targets, demonstrating motor learning and visual discrimination. They can understand basic commands, solve simple puzzles, and remember solutions over long periods. Socially, pigs show nuanced behavior. They read body language, establish hierarchies, and can use social information to find food. In one study, pigs watched another pig locate hidden food, then followed strategically, while sometimes trying to avoid being observed themselves. That suggests both learning and tactical awareness. Pigs are also emotionally expressive, showing stress, playfulness, and affiliative behavior depending on environment. Their intelligence is tied to curiosity and exploration. Given enriched settings, pigs investigate objects, test interactions, and adapt behavior rapidly. Much of their reputation as simple farm animals comes from confinement systems that suppress natural cognition. In the right conditions, pigs show memory, learning speed, and social strategy that place them among the smarter mammals. Rat. Rats are one of the most cognitively underestimated animals on Earth. They learn quickly, remember efficiently, and adapt to complex environments with remarkable flexibility. In mazes, rats build spatial maps rather than just memorizing turns, allowing them to reroute when obstacles appear. They can perform pattern recognition, timing tasks, and probability-based decision-making. Rats also demonstrate metacognitive-like behavior in some studies, essentially showing uncertainty responses when they know they don't know. Socially, rats are cooperative and empathetic. In famous experiments, rats worked to free trapped cage mates even when no direct reward was offered, and some shared food afterward. They also learn by observing others, acquiring new strategies without direct trial and error. Their whisker-based sensory system and rapid learning make them exceptional problem solvers in low-light environments. Much of modern neuroscience relies on rats precisely because their learning mechanisms are robust and measurable. In urban settings, rat intelligence becomes obvious. They exploit human systems, avoid repeated traps, and adjust behavior to changing threats. Rat cognition is practical, resilient, and highly adaptive. Border Collie? Border Collies are often considered the most intelligent dog breed, especially in working and communication tasks. Their intelligence is not just obedience, it is rapid pattern detection, response control, and human cue interpretation at a very high level. Border Collies can learn the names of hundreds of objects and retrieve them by verbal label. Some famous individuals learned over 1,000 words, rivaling language-trained parrots in vocabulary size. They also infer meaning through exclusion, choosing a new object when hearing a new word among known items. In herding work, border collies process movement patterns across large groups of animals and respond to complex directional commands at long distances. That requires attention control, memory, and real-time decision-making under pressure. Their problem-solving speed is among the fastest measured in domestic dogs. They are also highly sensitive to human gaze, posture, and tone, allowing near-instant communication with handlers. This cognitive intensity has a downside. Without mental stimulation, border collies develop stress behaviors because their brains are built for continuous challenge. In the right role, though, they are extraordinary, combining trainability, memory, and strategic responsiveness. Capuchin monkey. Capuchin monkeys are small primates with disproportionately advanced cognitive abilities, especially in tool use and social strategy. In the wild, some capuchin populations use stones to crack nuts and shellfish, selecting specific hammer and anvil stones for different materials, that is, deliberate tool selection based on task demands. They also wash food, inspect unfamiliar objects, and explore mechanical relationships through play and manipulation. Social intelligence is equally strong. Capuchins track status, alliances, and reciprocity within groups. They remember who shared food and who did not, adjusting behavior accordingly. In experimental settings, capuchins understand simple exchange systems and can use tokens to trade for rewards. They are also famous for fairness sensitivity. When one monkey receives a better reward for the same task, others may protest or refuse participation. That reaction hints at comparative social evaluation, a complex cognitive trait. Capuchins learn quickly from observation and can generalize skills across contexts. Their intelligence combines dexterity, memory, and social calculation. For a monkey under 5 kilos, they deliver cognitive performance far beyond what their size might suggest. Bonobo. Bonobos are one of humanity's closest living relatives and exhibit high social and emotional intelligence. Like chimpanzees, they use tools, solve problems, and understand symbolic communication to some degree. What stands out in bonobos is social cognition. They are highly sensitive to group dynamics, emotional states, and conflict management. Bonobo societies are generally less violent and more cooperative than chimp societies, with strong female alliances and frequent affiliative behavior used to reduce tension. In language studies, some bonobos learn to use lexigram boards to communicate requests and understand spoken phrases, including basic word order distinctions. They show perspective taking in social interactions and can coordinate cooperative tasks requiring shared goals. Bonobos also display empathy-related behaviors, comforting distressed group members and helping juveniles beyond immediate kin. Their intelligence seems especially tuned to relationship maintenance, negotiation, and social flexibility. That makes them a valuable model for understanding the evolutionary roots of cooperation and emotional regulation in primates. Bonobo cognition is not just about solving physical puzzles. It is about navigating complex social worlds with sensitivity and adaptability. Sperm whale. Sperm whales combine extreme ecological adaptation with deep social intelligence. They have the largest brain of any living animal, averaging around 7 to 8 kilograms. Brain size alone does not prove intelligence, but sperm whale behavior strongly suggests advanced cognition. They live in matrilineal social groups where females and calves maintain long-term cooperative bonds, including alloparental care and collective defense. Communication is built around patterned click sequences called codas. Different clans have distinct coda patterns, effectively cultural dialects passed across generations. That means sperm whale societies carry learned traditions, not just instinctive calls. They coordinate deep foraging dives that can exceed 1,000 meters and over an hour in duration, requiring sophisticated timing and physiological control. Social learning is central. Juveniles acquire foraging and communication behaviors over years within stable family units. Sperm whales also display behavioral responses to dead group members consistent with grief-like social attachment, lingering and supporting bodies at the surface. Their intelligence appears distributed across memory, communication, social structure, and environmental mastery in one of Earth's most extreme habitats. They are not just giant predators, they are giant social thinkers. Animals that hijack other animals' minds. Jewel wasp. Jewel wasps don't kill cockroaches. They turn them into obedient zombies. A female jewel wasp hunts a cockroach nearly 3 times her size and stings it twice with surgical precision. The first sting hits the thorax to briefly stun the front legs. The second is the masterpiece. She drives her stinger directly into the cockroach's brain, feeling around with sensors on the stinger itself until she finds the exact region that controls the urge to walk. She injects venom into that one spot. The roach doesn't die. It doesn't even try to flee. It simply loses the will to escape. Then the wasp bites off half of each antenna, grabs one like a leash, and walks her victim back to her burrow like a dog. There she lays an egg on its belly and seals it inside. The larva eats the still-living roach from the inside over 6 days, saving the vital organs for last to keep it fresh. The cockroach feels everything. It just can't decide to run. Ophiocordyceps fungus. Ophiocordyceps is a fungus that takes over an ant's body and drives it like a stolen car. A single spore lands on a carpenter ant and burrows through its shell. Over days, the fungus spreads through the ant, weaving threads around the muscles and flooding the body with chemicals, but it deliberately leaves the brain intact. The ant stays conscious for what comes next. At a precise moment, the fungus forces the ant to climb. It marches up a plant stem to a height of around 25 centimeters, a zone with the exact temperature and humidity the fungus needs to grow. Then it commands the ant to clamp its jaws onto a leaf vein in a death grip. This is the final act. The ant locks on and dies. Days later, a stalk erupts from the back of the dead ant's head and rains spores onto the colony below. Whole ant graveyards form under these spots. The fungus didn't just kill the ant. It used the corpse as a launch pad. Lancet liver fluke. Lancet liver flukes need to get inside a grazing sheep, and they use an ant as a hijacked vehicle to get there. The fluke's journey starts in snail slime, which ants eat. Once inside the ant, dozens of flukes spread through the body, but one does something different. A single fluke migrates to the ant's brain cluster and seizes the controls. By day, the infected ant behaves normally. But as evening cools the air, the brain fluke forces the ant to climb to the very tip of a blade of grass and lock its jaws shut. There it waits, frozen, all night, exactly where a grazing sheep or cow is most likely to eat it. If dawn comes and the ant hasn't been eaten, the fluke releases it, lets it go feed and survive the heat, then drags it back up the grass the next evening. The ant has no idea it's being farmed. Its life now runs on a parasite's feeding schedule, climbing to die so a worm can reach a stomach. Hairworm. Hairworms grow up to 30 centimeters long inside a cricket, then force that cricket to drown itself. It starts when a cricket drinks water holding microscopic hairworm larvae. Inside the cricket, the worm grows for weeks, coiling through the body cavity until it fills nearly the entire abdomen, sometimes 3 times longer than its host. The cricket is a land animal that avoids water completely. The worm needs water to breed, so the parasite solves the problem by hijacking the cricket's brain. It floods the nervous system with proteins that scramble the cricket's navigation, and it drives the insect toward reflected light off water at night. The cricket walks to the edge of a pool or stream and jumps in, an act that means certain death for a creature that cannot swim. As the cricket drowns, the worm bursts out through its rear, sometimes more than one, wriggling free into the water to mate. The cricket dies for a journey it never chose. The worm just needed a ride to the water. Toxoplasma gondii. Toxoplasma gondii is a single-celled parasite that can only breed inside a cat, so it rewires rodents to get there. A rat or mouse picks up the parasite from soil or cat feces. Toxoplasma then forms cysts in the brain, settling into the regions that handle fear and smell. Normally, a rodent that catches even a whiff of cat urine flees in pure terror, a survival instinct hardwired over millions of years. Toxoplasma erases it. Infected rodents lose their fear of cats entirely. Worse, the parasite flips the wiring so the rodent becomes mildly attracted to the smell of cat urine, drawn toward the very predator that should mean death. The rodent strolls into the open, gets caught and eaten, and the parasite finally reaches the catgut where it reproduces. The unsettling part: Toxoplasma infects humans too, and it sits in roughly 30% of the world's brains right now. Studies link it to altered risk-taking and reaction times. A brain parasite for cats is quietly living inside a third of all people. Leucochloridium flatworm. Leucochloridium turns a snail's eyeballs into flashing, pulsating bird bait. The flatworm gets into a snail when the snail eats infected bird droppings. Inside, the parasite grows into long sacs called brood sacs, then pushes them up into the snail's eye stalks until the tentacles swell grotesquely. Now comes the horror show. The brood sacs are striped green and brown, and they pulsate, throbbing up to 70 times a minute, so the snail's eye stalks look exactly like fat, wriggling caterpillars. The parasite isn't done. It hijacks the snail's behavior, driving it out of the dark and up into bright, exposed leaves in the open, the opposite of everything a snail's instinct screams. A bird spots the pulsing fake caterpillars, pecks the eye, stalks off, and swallows them. The snail often survives and simply regrows the stalks, ready to be infected and pulse again. Inside the bird, the parasite breeds and the cycle restarts in fresh droppings. The snail spends its life as a billboard advertising its own eyes as food. Sacculina barnacle. Sacculina is a barnacle that invades a crab, castrates it, and reprograms it into a slave nanny. A female Sacculina larva finds a crab, locates a soft joint in its shell, and injects her own cells inside, abandoning her shell completely. Those cells spread through the crab as a root-like network that wraps around its organs and feeds off it from within. The crab stops growing, it stops molting, it stops being able to reproduce, because the parasite has chemically castrated it. Then Sacculina pushes a bulging sac out through the crab's underside, exactly where a female crab would carry her own eggs. Now the parasite forces the crab to care for the sac as if it were the crab's own brood. The crab grooms it, fans it with fresh water, and gently releases the parasite's larva into the current, performing the full nursery ritual for offspring that aren't its own. If the host is male, Sacculina even feminizes its body to make it behave like a mother. The crab still lives. It just works for the enemy now. Rabies virus. Rabies is a virus that engineers aggression to spread itself through a bite. Once it enters through a wound, rabies doesn't rush. It crawls along the nerves toward the brain at roughly 12 to 24 millimeters per day, which is why symptoms can take weeks or months to appear. When it reaches the brain, it floods specific regions and rewrites the host's behavior with terrifying purpose. The virus needs to travel in saliva, and it needs the host to bite. So it makes the animal aggressive, restless, and prone to attacking anything that moves. At the same time, it inflames the throat, making swallowing painfully difficult, which is why infected animals foam at the mouth and develop a horror of water. The saliva pools, loaded with virus, and every bite injects a fresh dose into a new host. Once symptoms appear, rabies is almost 100% fatal, one of the deadliest pathogens known. The virus doesn't want to kill you. It wants you to bite someone first. Dicrocelium dendriticum. Dicrocelium dendriticum runs one of the most elaborate hijacks in nature, using 2 different hosts and a suicide command. The fluke's eggs are eaten by a snail, which coughs them out in slime balls. Ants eat the slime. Inside the ant, the flukes multiply, and once again a single specialist fluke breaks away and burrows into the nerve cluster controlling the jaws. From that moment, the ant lives a double life. During the warm day, it forages normally with the colony, but the instant the temperature drops at dusk, the brain fluke seizes command and forces the ant to climb a grass stem and bite down, locking in place through the cold night, parked at mouth height for grazing animals. Survive till morning, and the fluke releases the controls so the ant can feed and avoid being baked by the sun. Then it repeats. Night after night, the ant is marched up to wait for a mouth. It is a parasite running a host on a schedule, gambling the ant's whole existence on getting swallowed by a sheep. Euhaplorchus californiensis. Euhaplorchus californiensis turns a fish into a flashing target that begs to be eaten by birds. This fluke needs to end up inside a bird's gut to reproduce, and its middle host is the California killifish. The parasite gets into the fish and migrates straight to the surface of its brain, where hundreds of them can carpet the brain like a blanket. From there, they tamper with the brain chemistry that controls behavior. Infected killifish start doing things that should get them killed. They jerk, shimmy, and flash their bellies near the surface, swimming in conspicuous bursts instead of hiding. Studies found these infected fish are up to 30 times more likely to be eaten by birds than healthy fish. The parasite isn't damaging the fish at random. It's specifically dialing up the exact movements that draw a predator's eye. The bird swoops, swallows the fish, and the fluke finally reaches the gut, where it breeds. The killifish is still alive and swimming. It just can't stop advertising itself as an easy meal. Parasitoid wasp larvae. Parasitoid wasp larvae don't just eat their hosts, they mind control them into becoming bodyguards. A female wasp lays her eggs inside or on a living caterpillar or spider. The larvae hatch and feed on the host from within for days or weeks, carefully avoiding the organs that would kill it too soon. When they finally chew their way out to spin their cocoons, the host should be dead or dying. Instead, the parasite leaves it alive and seizes its behavior. A caterpillar that's been drained will stop eating and stand guard over the wasp cocoons, violently thrashing and head-swinging to knock away any predator that approaches. With one species of orb weaver spider, the larva chemically commands the dying spider to weave a special reinforced web, not its normal design, but a custom platform built to protect the wasp's cocoon. Then the spider sits still and waits to die. The host spends its final hours defending the very creatures that hollowed it out. It guards its killers with its last breath. Trematodes. Trematodes are flatworm parasites that rewrite fish behavior to deliver themselves into the mouths of predators. These flukes run multi-host life cycles, and the fish is just a stepping stone to the final host, usually a bird or larger predator. The trematode infects the fish and lodges in the brain, eyes, or muscle, then begins steering. Infected fish behave like they want to die. They swim higher in the water column, out in the open where birds patrol, instead of staying low and hidden. They flash, twitch, and dart in sudden bursts that catch a hunter's attention. Some species are physically blinded by parasites packed into their eyes, leaving them disoriented and easy to catch. Across studies, parasitized fish are eaten by the target predator far more often than clean fish, sometimes by many times over. Every behavior change points one direction, straight into the predator the parasite needs next. The fish isn't sick and confused. It is being aimed. A flatworm in its skull is steering it toward the exact jaws that complete the cycle. Weird animal facts you wouldn't believe are actually true. Octopuses have 3 separate hearts beating inside their bodies, and each one serves a completely different biological purpose. 2 smaller hearts, called branchial hearts, sit near the gills and pump blood through them to pick up oxygen from the surrounding water. The 3rd heart is larger and systemic, pumping oxygenated blood to the rest of the body and delivering it to organs, muscles, and tissues. Here is where things get genuinely strange. The main heart actually stops beating entirely whenever the octopus swims through open water. This is precisely why octopuses strongly prefer crawling along the ocean floor instead of swimming long distances. Swimming exhausts them incredibly quickly because their organs temporarily lose their blood supply during sustained movement. Their blood is bright blue instead of red because it contains copper-based hemocyanin instead of iron-based hemoglobin. This copper compound works more efficiently at transporting oxygen in cold, low-oxygen environments like the deep ocean floor. The trade-off is that their blood carries oxygen less efficiently overall, which contributes to their notable fatigue during sustained physical activity. Octopuses also possess 9 brains total. Cows form deep emotional bonds with specific individuals in their herd, and scientists have conclusively proven these friendships are real and completely measurable through physiological data. Researchers discovered that when cows are separated from their preferred companions, their heart rates increase significantly and their cortisol stress hormone levels spike dramatically within hours. They become visibly agitated, vocalize much more frequently, and show classic signs of psychological distress. When finally reunited with their best friend, these stress indicators drop back to normal almost immediately and visibly. Cows can recognize and remember over 100 individual faces, both cattle and human, and retain these memories accurately for years. They hold grudges against animals and people who have treated them poorly, and show clear preferences for those who have been kind to them. Research studies show that cows with strong social bonds produce significantly more milk and have measurably better overall health than socially isolated individuals. Their friendships follow complex social hierarchies, and younger cows often seek out older, more experienced companions as mentors within the herd. These are not simple herd animals following instinct. Dolphins cannot fully fall asleep the way humans do because they would inevitably drown within minutes. Unlike fish, dolphins are air-breathing mammals that must consciously decide to breathe every single time they surface. If both sides of their brain shut down simultaneously during sleep, they would simply forget to surface for air and suffocate underwater. Evolution solved this seemingly impossible problem with unihemispheric slow-wave sleep, where only half the brain sleeps at a time, while the other half stays completely awake and alert. The sleeping half gets essential rest, while the awake half monitors for approaching predators, controls breathing, and keeps one eye open to watch the surroundings carefully. After a few hours, the hemispheres switch roles. The eye connected to the awake brain hemisphere stays open, while the other eye closes. This means dolphins spend their entire lives never fully unconscious, always remaining half aware of their environment. They can swim, navigate, and surface to breathe while half asleep. Mother dolphins do not sleep at all for the first several weeks after giving birth because newborn calves need constant supervision and protection. Wombats are the only animals on Earth that naturally produce cube-shaped feces. And scientists spent years trying to figure out how this is even physically possible. The surprising answer lies in the varying elasticity of their intestinal walls. Some sections of a wombat's long intestine are significantly more flexible than others, and as feces move through slowly over approximately 2 weeks, these irregular muscular contractions mold the waste into distinct cubic shapes, rather than the typical rounded forms produced by every other mammal on the planet. Each individual wombat produces between 80 and 100 separate cubes per night. The cubes serve a critical territorial communication purpose. Wombats deliberately stack their droppings on rocks, logs, and elevated surfaces to mark their territory and communicate with other wombats through scent signals. Cube-shaped poop does not roll away like spherical droppings naturally would, so it stays exactly where the wombat strategically places it. The flat sides also make the piles more stable when stacked multiple cubes high. Wombats have extremely poor eyesight, but an excellent sense of smell for accurately detecting these territorial scent markers. The mantis shrimp possesses one of the fastest and most devastatingly powerful strikes in the entire animal kingdom, despite being only a few inches long. Their specialized club-like forelimbs accelerate faster than a bullet leaving a gun barrel, reaching speeds of 50 miles per hour and generating forces exceeding 1,500 newtons on impact. The strike happens so incredibly quickly that it creates cavitation bubbles in the surrounding water instantly. When these bubbles violently collapse, they produce a devastating secondary shockwave, a flash of light called sonoluminescence, and temperatures briefly reaching 8,500 degrees Fahrenheit, nearly as hot as the surface of the sun itself. The prey is effectively hit twice, once by the physical strike and once by the collapsing bubble shockwave immediately after. Even if the mantis shrimp completely misses its target, the shockwave alone can stun or kill small prey nearby. Their striking clubs are made of a unique, layered structure that absorbs repeated impacts without cracking, and scientists are actively studying this remarkable biological material to develop significantly better body armor and aerospace components for practical human applications. Koalas have fingerprints so remarkably similar to human fingerprints that they have actually confused professional forensic investigators at crime scenes in Australia on documented occasions. Under a powerful microscope, koala prints show the exact same loops, whorls, and arches that characterize human prints, and even extensively trained forensic experts struggle to reliably tell them apart without additional genetic analysis. This is truly remarkable because koalas and humans have not shared a common ancestor for over 70 million years of evolution. The similarity is a textbook example of convergent evolution, where completely unrelated species independently develop the same trait because it solves a similar environmental problem effectively. Humans evolved fingerprints to improve grip and tactile sensitivity for manipulating tools and climbing ancient trees. Koalas evolved nearly identical prints for climbing eucalyptus trees and gripping individual leaves with fine precision. The microscopic ridges increase friction and enhance the detailed sense of touch, allowing koalas to carefully select the best quality leaves by texture alone. This remarkable similarity demonstrates that fingerprints are a genuinely optimal biomechanical solution for tree climbing grasping challenges in nature. Axolotls possess regenerative abilities that seem almost impossible by normal biological standards and continue to astonish even experienced researchers. These endangered Mexican salamanders can regrow entire limbs completely, including bones, muscles, nerves, and blood vessels, with absolutely zero scarring whatsoever. They can regenerate their spinal cords after complete severing, restoring full function within just weeks. They can regrow significant portions of their hearts after severe damage. Most incredibly of all, they can regenerate portions of their actual brains, including critical structures in the forebrain, and retain their memories and learned behaviors afterward perfectly. Scientists have amputated the same limb from an axolotl over 100 times in experiments, and it regrew perfectly each time. No scar tissue, no loss of function, no deformity whatsoever. Researchers are intensely studying axolotls to understand how they accomplish this biological miracle, hoping to unlock regenerative therapies for humans someday. The key appears to involve their cells reverting to a stem cell-like state at the wound site, then redifferentiating into whatever tissue types are needed. Understanding why axolotls avoid scarring could completely revolutionize regenerative medicine for human patients. Sea otters float on their backs at the ocean surface, and to prevent drifting apart from their group while sleeping, they hold hands with each other in an endearing display. This adorable behavior is called rafting, and groups of otters floating together can number from just a handful to over 1,000 individuals, forming massive floating colonies visible from shore. Mothers are particularly careful with their vulnerable young pups, often wrapping them securely in kelp strands to anchor them in place while diving for food far below. The kelp acts as a natural seatbelt, keeping the baby secure at the surface while mom hunts along the seafloor. Sea otters have the densest fur of any mammal on Earth, with up to 1 million individual hair follicles per square inch of skin. This incredibly thick fur traps air to provide essential insulation, because otters completely lack the blubber layer that other marine mammals use for warmth. They spend several hours each day grooming meticulously to maintain this crucial insulation. If their fur becomes matted or contaminated with oil, they quickly lose their ability to stay warm. Tardigrades are microscopic eight-legged animals, also called water bears, that can survive conditions that would instantly kill any other known organism on Earth. Scientists sent tardigrades into the complete vacuum of space, exposed them directly to cosmic radiation and intense solar winds for days, and brought them back completely alive and healthy. They survive temperatures ranging from mere absolute zero to well over 300 degrees Fahrenheit. They withstand crushing pressures 6 times greater than those found in the deepest ocean trenches on the planet. They endure radiation doses hundreds of times higher than what would kill a human instantly. They can survive for decades without any food or water whatsoever. Their remarkable secret is cryptobiosis, a state where they expel nearly all water from their bodies and essentially stop all metabolic processes completely. In this dried state, called a tune, they become virtually indestructible. Add water years or even decades later, and they reanimate within hours, resuming their lives as if nothing happened. Tardigrades have survived all 5 major mass extinction events in Earth's history, and will likely survive more. The pistol shrimp produces one of the loudest sounds in the entire ocean, using a specialized, oversized claw that snaps shut with almost unbelievable speed and devastating force. The closure happens so incredibly fast that it creates a cavitation bubble, a pocket of vapor that shoots forward at nearly 60 miles per hour toward unsuspecting prey. When this bubble violently collapses moments later, it generates a shock wave reaching 218 decibels, significantly louder than a gunshot and approaching the sound level of an actual rocket launch. For a brief instant, the collapsing bubble reaches temperatures of nearly 8,000 degrees Fahrenheit and produces a tiny flash of visible light through a phenomenon called sonoluminescence. The pistol shrimp uses this devastating weapon to stun prey, excavate burrows through solid rock, and communicate with other shrimp nearby. Colonies of pistol shrimp create so much collective noise that they can actively interfere with submarine sonar systems in shallow waters. During World War II, the United States Navy actually studied pistol shrimp extensively because their constant snapping was disrupting crucial underwater detection equipment near tropical shorelines. The platypus is one of the strangest animals evolution has ever produced, combining biological features that seem deliberately designed to confuse scientists. It is one of only 5 species of mammals that lay eggs instead of giving live birth like most mammals. Males possess venomous spurs on their hind legs that deliver excruciating pain to predators and rival males during mating season. Pain so intense that morphine and other powerful opioids cannot effectively relieve it at all. The venom is not lethal to humans, but causes severe swelling and persistent agony lasting weeks or even months. The platypus hunts exclusively with electroreception, detecting the tiny electrical fields generated by muscle contractions in its completely hidden prey. It closes its eyes, ears, and nose completely underwater, relying entirely on electrical signals picked up through specialized sensors in its rubbery bill. This allows it to locate shrimp, insects, and small fish hiding in murky riverbeds with remarkable precision, even in total darkness. The platypus bill contains nearly 40,000 individual electroreceptors. When European scientists first received a preserved platypus specimen, they genuinely thought it was a hoax. When threatened by predators, horned lizards employ one of the most bizarre and genuinely disturbing defense mechanisms in the entire animal kingdom. They shoot streams of their own blood directly from the corners of their eyes, spraying the foul-tasting liquid up to 5 feet at attacking predators with surprising accuracy. The blood contains specific chemical compounds that are particularly repulsive to canine and feline predators, causing them to immediately retreat and shake their heads violently in obvious disgust. The lizard achieves this grotesque display by restricting blood flow leaving its head, causing pressure to build dramatically until tiny blood vessels around the eyes rupture explosively and spray outward. This extreme defense costs the lizard up to 1/3 of its total blood supply, so it is strictly reserved as an absolute last resort when all else fails. Before resorting to blood squirting, horned lizards first try camouflage, body inflation, and playing dead convincingly. The blood spray typically targets the predator's mouth and eyes directly, where the horrible taste has maximum impact. Coyotes and foxes that experience this defense once often avoid horned lizards forever afterward.